All right, so our final section of this chapter is 5.6. We are solving percentage problems. So our objective for today is that I can use multiplication to solve real-world percentage problems. So first, procedures for solving...
Can you give me a call in the office? 3399.
Procedures for solving percentage problems using multiplication. First, to find a percent of a given number, let's suppose you were asked to find 75% of 60. So first, convert the given percentage to a fraction. So we have a percentage of 75%. We need to convert that to a fraction. We know that we can take that percent sign off. Percents are always out of 100, so we put 75 over 100. Or we can simplify that fraction so it's much smaller and easier to work with, so it is 3/4. Second, you're going to multiply the given number by the fraction you just created. So you can, for example, you can do 3/4 times 60, which equals 180 over 4, or simplified is 45. 4 goes into 180 45 times, or in other words, 180 divided by 4 is 45. So 45 is 75% of 60. Okay? I also want you to be aware of another way to solve this problem. If we have 75% out of 100, and we know that you want to find what it says you were asked to find 75% of 60. So 60 is our total, and we want to know what the part is, what 75% of this is. So when we set up this problem, we can cross multiply and solve. So you'd end up with 100x equals 60 times 75. Okay, if you work that out up top, 60 times 75, you would get 7 times 0 is 0, 7 times 6 is 42. We'd have to add those up. You'd get 0, 0, 5, 4. So 4,500. So 4,500. And then in order to solve that problem, we just divide by 100 on both sides. And x equals 4,500 divided by 100. You just cross off these zeros and you get 45. Which is the same thing that we came up with. So 45 is 75% of 60. Okay, to find the whole when given the percent and a part, let's suppose you're asked to find 75% of what number is 72. So in this case, we have 72 over x. We don't know of what number, but we know it's 75% of 100. Okay, so 72 is 75% of some number that we don't know. So part over whole equals percent over 100. Another way to think about this, if you don't remember which one goes on top and bottom, also we can think about it as is over of equals percent over 100. The is always the part, the of is always the whole. Okay, so kind of a couple different ways to think about that. So we can either cross multiply and then solve. So x times 75 is 75x equals 72 times 100 is going to be 7200. And then we just solve for x. So we get rid of the 75, divide by 75, divide by 75, x equals, and now all we have to do is do a quick division problem. 7200 divided by 7200, divided by 75. 75 does not fit into 72. So how many times does 75 fit into 720? Well, we know that 750 or 75 times 10 would be 750. So it's probably going to be 9 times. 9 times 75 is 45. Carry the 4. 7 times 9 is 63, plus 4 is 67. So 675. Now we got to subtract. So we're going to have to borrow. We get 11 minus 7 is 4. So we get 45 left over. Now you bring down your 0. 75 goes into 450 how many times? Well, how many times does 7, if you cover up the 5, how many times does 7 go into 45? We know that that fits 6 times. So let's try 75 times 6. 5 times 6 is 30, carry the 3. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 3 is 45. So 450 exactly. So 6 times is 450, and we get nothing left over. So our answer is 96. Okay, let's look at one of the other ways we could solve this problem. So if we decided not to cross multiply and solve, we could also say that 75% written as a fraction is 75 over 100, or if we simplified that fraction, we would get 3/4. And then divide the given number by the fraction you've just created. Remember, we don't divide fractions, we flip and multiply. So you would take the 72 that we were given, and then you could divide by 3/4, which is the same thing as 72 times 4 over 3, which would give you a really large fraction of 288 divided over 3. And if you divide 288 by 3, you would get 96, which is what we just got. So 75% of 96 is 72. So the biggest thing I want you to take away from today is this saying or phrase right here. Is over of equals percent over 100. We can solve for any missing value in a percent problem if we can remember this phrase. Is over of equals percent over 100, or part over whole equals percent over 100. So let's do a problem together. So we have 25% of 40 is what number? So remember, is over of equals percent over 100. So what is our is? What comes after the is? What number? We don't know. So is on top is our what number. Okay, of, right after the of is 40, so that goes on bottom. Is over of equals percent. The percent is 25, so 25% over 100. So if we want to if we want to solve this problem, we just cross multiply and solve. So we get x times 100 is 100. X equals 40 times 25 is how much? 40 times 25. 0 times 5 is 0. 4 times 5 is 20. Add your placeholder 0. 2 times 0 is 0. 4 times 2 is 8. Add them up. 0, 0, 10. So you got 1,000. Okay, so now we have 100x equals 1,000. Split it down the middle, divide by 100, divide by 100, and our answer is going to be x equals, if we cross off 2 zeros from the bottom and 2 zeros from the top, you're left with 10 over 1, so your answer is 10. Or 1,000 divided by 100 is 10. Okay, so let's try another one. if we have 120% of what number is 72, remember is over of equals percent over 100. So your is 72 over of what number, so that's our x, equals 120% out of 100. Okay, cross multiply and solve. You get 120x equals 7,200. And now you just have to split down the middle and solve. So we divide by 120, divide by 120, x equals, okay, if you hold off a 0 from the 120 and a 0 from the, let's just take off all of the zeros, 72 divided by 12 is what? 72 divided by 12 is 6. So that means that 7,200 divided by 120 is going to be 60. Okay, you can take off a 0 here. So that means that 12 would go into a 720 60 times. So I want you to pause and try 2 on your own. Remember, our phrase is over of equals percent over 100. So I want you to use this in order to help you to solve our problem. When you're finished with both problems, then we will check them together in a little bit. Go ahead and get some practice on Khan Academy.